In this video, we're going to look at how to make information questions. Let's take the example, I'm 34 years old. First, let's change this into a yes or no question. Again, we do that by switching the subject and the be verb. And for conversation's sake, this becomes, are you 34 years old? Now let's look at the part here, the are you part. This is what we can call our 질문말. It is because of this that it is a question. It is important to note that our 질문말 will be exactly the same in both our yes or no question and our information question. So, this is our 질문말, and this is the information we're going to be asking about, the person's age. Okay, so to ask the information question about this, we're going to put how old on the front. This is the part that asks about certain information. And then we're going to have our 질문말, making it, how old are you? And that's it. The question is done. Because age is the information we're asking about, we don't include that in our information question. This idea I'm explaining might seem confusing, but if we look at an example, you'll see it's actually quite natural. For example, it would not be correct to say, how old are you, 34? It wouldn't be correct, and it wouldn't make sense. Looking at the Korean equivalent of that sentence, you'd have 34살 몇 살이에요? Obviously, if you're asking 몇 살이에요, you wouldn't include an age, 34살, in the question. Let's try another one together. Let's take the example, I'm into skiing. Changing this into a yes or no question, it becomes, are you into skiing? Again, we have our 질문말, and skiing is the information we're going to ask about. Now, making an information question asking about this, it would become, what are you into? Again, you can see skiing has been omitted from the question because that is the information we're asking about. Now let's use these two examples to put a simple formula together about how to make information questions. First thing in the question is our information question, which we'll be looking at in more detail in the next video. And second is our 질문말. And then last, we have any extra information we might need in the sentence. The focus for now is mainly on becoming comfortable with the information question and 질문말 part of the question. But just for a quick second, let's take a look at another example that has this extra stuff on the end to show you what I mean by that. Let's take the sentence, I'm 35 Korean age. In this sentence, we're stating Korean age because Korean ages and Western ages are actually counted differently. And so we want to specify that he's 35 in Korean age, not in Western age. So changing that to a yes or no question, we have, are you 35 Korean age? A more practical, real-world example of this in Korea, this conversation actually happens all the time in my life, would be maybe right after the person says, I'm 35. The other person asks, are you 35 Korean age or Western age? Which actually isn't a yes or no question, it's a choice question, but it builds the same way and still serves the purpose of our example. So we have the question, are you 35 years old Korean age? Again, the information we're asking about is the person's age. So we first say, how old? And then we have our 질문말, are you? Now, we've taken 35 years old out of the question because that's what we're asking about. But you can see that we still have this left over, Korean age. And that's fine. We can just put that on the end. So our formula can basically be written as this. Information question, 질문말, and then whatever else is left over that we need or want. And let's call that extra info, which makes it look like this. Information question, 질문말, extra stuff. Now, before we go on to our next video, I'd just like to say one thing. If this seems a bit confusing or difficult, don't worry. What you're learning now is actually how almost all information questions in English are formed. So what you're learning doesn't just apply to what we're learning now, which is how to make questions, answers, and statements with the be verb, but to almost everything you'll learn in English. For these kinds of questions, it will always follow this formula. So again, don't worry. We'll practice this stuff a lot and you'll see and use it again and again. So it won't take long to become natural and automatic, I promise. In the next few videos, we're going to look at the most common information questions, what's called the 5 W's, and then we're going to do a few more examples together and then practice.